If you want to make a ton of money this Deadman, here are all of the best money makers that you can do and how not to die when doing them, starting with the easiest. In the first hour of Deadman, people will buy the GP you make for 1000 times the amount, paying you with 07 GP. That means cash money makers in day one are insane money, but they have a limited shelf life. First is the agility pyramid, and because you get 10 times the XP in this game mode, plus Skippy at the start can send you straight to the Gnome Stronghold, you can go straight there and get 20 agility in just 3 minutes, home tally, and then go to the Alchorate course for the next 10 minutes, which will get you all the way up to level 40. The starter pack you get should have 10 tuna in it, but you can always buy kebabs for 1 GP each here, and then just pickpocket to get GP for the water skins and the desert outfit. You may also want to use your starter staff just to kill some cows to get your HP up. Realistically, it'll probably take you about 30 minutes to get to the agility pyramid, but you will level so quickly when you're there, you'll still get around 6 to 8 laps in before the rest of your protection runs out. At this point, if the rate is still 1000 to 1, it will make you 60 to 80 million GP, and even if it's dropped to 500 to 1, you'll still get 30 to 40 million GP. All in all, not bad for an hour's work. After that, PKs will come, and the only way to realistically do this method long term is to rush the waterfall quest and then Witch's House, which will give you enough health to not get PK'd. Normally the PKs don't have the agility level, so camp here waiting for you to finish the lap. Next is thieving from silk stores, but the latest update from Jagex says that you don't get items when you thieve from a safe zone, and I'm not sure if this includes stalls as well, or just pickpocketing NPCs. If you want to take the risk, use Skippy to teleport you to RD and thieve men until you have level 5, then steal from the bakery stall to get level 20, which will take you about 5 minutes. Then simply steal from this stall here. The guy will buy the silks back off you, but only if you haven't stolen from him in the last 20 to 30 minutes. But you can use that time to level up magic on the cows just to the northeast of RD. Silks are 36,000 GP per hour, so again, depending on the rate, you can earn up to 36 million GP per hour at the start. One thing you've always got to be conscious about in all of these early methods is that whilst it's safe here and the friends chats that buy your gold, which I'll link one in the description for you, is in a safe zone, you have no way to get back. That doesn't mean leaving the safe zone. If you're swapping GP over when you make it, you can just simply sell everything at the end and then it doesn't matter if you die after that, or you use part of your protection time to get your magic level up and then buy teleports to get back to places. Next is wood cutting, and it doesn't get more simple than that, just fletching the logs and then selling them to a general store. There are oak trees in Varric, which is in a safe zone, and oak and willow trees in the Gnome Stronghold, which is also a safe zone. Any trees above willows have been removed from Deadman World 3, 4, 5, so I presume it will be the same in Apocalypse. Even still, it won't take you long at all to get the level for willow longbows unstrung, which sell for 65 GP each, meaning at the start they effectively make you 65,000 GP every one. If you get your farmer level up, you can also plant a higher level tree in the Tree Gnome Stronghold. The only worry with this method is if too many people do it, the general store starts to pay a lot less for each bow that you sell. There's probably going to be a lot of money makers around sigils as well, but they're keeping a lot of them quite close to the chest. But they have told us that the one where you get 10,000 GP for every mark of grace that spawns is going to be back as well. So if you can manage to get that sigil or buy it on the GE, that should also be a very good money maker with a lot less risk than the agility pyramid. The next one is probably the best in my opinion, just because it has a lot more longevity, by essentially being a bit of a pain to set up, and as a general rule, the more painful something is to unlock, the less likely other players will do it just to try and PK you. The 2 sub-quests are automatically completed, but you still need to do 2 other quests, the Lost Tribe and Death to the Dorgashan. You also need the light source, and you can buy a candle from the candle seller for 1000 GP, which technically is 1 million GP for the first hour. Maybe he should start making money making guides. You also need a bunch of stats, and whilst they won't take long each and they're quite low level, it means moving around a lot and that time will add up. The quests take 31 minutes in total, the levels probably about another 20, you also have to steal 2 sets of ham clothes and mage cows to probably level 40 plus to be able to complete the quest, but it is worth it. The ham storerooms give you unenchanted jewellery, which is always some of the most sought after items in a new game mode, because walking everywhere is horrific and everyone wants to teleport. With so little GP in the game, most items sell for a very low price, but the most sought after ones don't, and that includes teleport jewellery. Plus, it's very unlikely anyone will have level 70 crafting yet, meaning you'll be the first person to get diamond amulets to make power amulets, which will probably sell for at least 10k each. The downside is that you only have 1 hour of protection, meaning you'll be vulnerable for about 30 minutes trying to set this up, but most of that time will be in a safe zone or Dorgashan, which most players won't have access to yet. The reason this method is so good is that no one can access the ham storerooms if they haven't done all of the quests too, so you're pretty safe in there. Steel plate bodies in the wilderness can be picked up and sold to the Varrock armor shop for 1.2 thousand GP each, but if too many people try, there just won't be enough of them. Crazy to think though that everyone you collect in the first hour is essentially worth 1.2 million GP. Skilling moneymakers are risky because only in-demand items sell on day one. People have limited GP and they prioritize just what they need the most. Getting items to sell as a moneymaker at the start of Deadman is a risky strategy. However, basic food like trout and salmon usually sells for between 50 and 100 GP each since most players are doing combat. You can also fish in the Gnome Stronghold, which is a completely safe zone, but you can't use the Spirit Tree to the GE unless you complete the Grand Tree quest. Any quest items will also be good money for those quests that people will want to rush at the start. This is all of the quests that unlock in the first few brackets, just so you know which ones to avoid getting items for. Secondary ingredients for Herblore will also be really in demand by those training it, but you may have to advertise the fact that you're selling them at the GE or on the Deadman Discord, which I'll link below, as people may not be expecting there to be any on the GE that early on in the game. Chins will undoubtedly sell for a lot of money, but it will also be a PK hotspot. The best place to catch them is probably here on the Isle of Souls, as not everyone knows about this spot and very few people use it. You aren't in combat, so as long as you're quick, if a PK comes you can teleport away. Finally is probably the best skilling one, which is Temperos. Now some minigames are disabled in Deadman, but I tested this on World 345 and it isn't, so I'm going to presume that it won't be in Apocalypse either. Temperos only requires 35 fishing, which shouldn't take too long with 10 times the XP rate, although fishing is very slow at low levels. But not only will the fish sell for good money, but if you get a reward casket, almost everything in it is worth a lot of money too. If you get a rune item from a casket in the first hour, that will be worth about 100 million GP. You can also do it fairly risk-free because you choose when to loot from the whirlpool. Being the first to make certain items is some of the best money in Deadman mode. The first players to make glories though, power amulets, d'hide armor, various potions like ranging, anti-fire and anti-venom, as well as teleport jewelry will make a fortune this Deadman, as these will be some of the most in-demand items at the start. Realistically, for this to be you though, you're going to need at least 3 or 4 alts gathering supplies for you to level 1 account quickly, as this is what your competition will be doing. Combat is usually the route I would recommend out of everything. Rune drops can be sold or high alch for a ton of money early on, plus you can get sigil drops, rare drops and supply drops. One of the best starting places is Lava Dragons, and since they're over combat level 100, they can drop the highest tier of sigil. If you come here though, it's important to be one of the first players, as it starts to get full pretty quickly and players start competing for kills. The one with the highest magic level will almost certainly always get the loot. As long as you're training defensively and burying the bones, you'll also reach the next combat bracket after around 50 minutes or an hour if you have to restock on your runes. That means you'll essentially get 2 hours of Lava Dragons with PvP protection. The Black d'hide and Lava Scales won't have a value at the start, but Lava Dragons drop 4 rune items as well as useful items such as lore runes, which will also be worth a lot. Blue Dragons if you're training Mage, or Green Dragons if you're training Range or Melee will also be good GP, just selling the bones on the GE, and these drop twice as many bones as normal. At the start, the bones will sell for between 1 and 2,000 GP each usually, which means that every dragon you kill in the first hour will be making you between 2 and 4 million GP. Slayer is incredible money, but no matter where you go, expect to see a ton of PKs as you're probably enemy number 1. You're risking your current gear, the money you've made on the task, plus the 10 most expensive stacks in your bank. Even still, if you're comfortable with freeze logging out, then don't let this put you off. Rune boots, dragon boots, G-mauls, whips, occults, black masks and tridents of the seas will be crazy money, and that's before you even get onto things like Cerberus and the alchemical Hydra. And I don't think you need a guide for me to tell you that the Chambers of Xeric, Zulra, Vorkath, Barrows and other raids and end level bosses will be great money, but be aware that here you will always have PKs camping either the boss, entrance or the teleport spot. So here's a couple of strategies that I'm not doing myself that I was considering. You can buy all of the range gear that you need in Varrock on Deadman. The archery shop even sells a bone crossbow and bolts. Just outside that shop by the anvils you can also buy some basic range gear, and you can get an Ava's device as one of the quests that auto unlock is animal magnetism. That means all you need to do is train your range on anything you like at all. That gets you at least 40 prayer until you reach the next bracket at combat level 51. Grab yourself some food off the G and prayer or super restores with the money you make killing things, and some anti-poison if there is any. If not, head over to here and pick some up from the respawn area by the observatory. It might seem far-fetched to think that there will be some prayer or super restores this early, but you can get them in supply drops, so there should be some. In bracket 2 you get 100% favour in all core end houses, so if you quickly do the waterfall quest that'll give you 52 attack and 52 strength, and buy a semi-decent weapon from the Varrock weapon store, you can go straight to killing Shadesian guards for their armour. Now you have access to the Lizardman Shaman, and unless you make a mistake in the fight, you take no damage at all when you protect from range. It's one of the best thing to kills for pure GP in the game, and even at this level should make you 200,000 in GP, plus a bunch of other good supplies as well as a chance of the Dragon Warhammer, and you should be able to reach here in about an hour and a quarter, which means the rate will still be about 500 to 1. 200,000 GP at that point is worth 100 million GP on 07. You could also go straight to sigil farming, and there's a few good places for this. In bracket 2 you can also unlock the Feminine questline, which means you can kill ice trolls. This is a multi-combat area and you only have to do a little bit of damage, and the warriors there will finish off the kill for you and you still get the drop. A similar area to that is the Wilderness God Wars dungeon, and it's not as risky as you probably expect early on. Getting God Wars dungeons is quite difficult at the start, but you can get a Monk's Robe top from Edgeville Monastery, which is a Sarah item, and kill the Monks of Zamorak for a Zami item. The hardest one is the Bandos item, which you have to get from a clue scroll or buy from another player. You don't need an armor item as you just don't go into that part of the cave, so the only difficult part is getting the Bandos item and 60 strength to move the boulder, but that is boostable. In the last Deadman I saved my money to buy one, and it was day 3 at God Wars Dungeon before a PK showed up. There's also a ton of out the way creatures like mutated bloods at the back of the laboratory, the creatures in the elemental workshop, and scarab mages in the dungeons of Sophanum, just to name a few that come to mind. So few people go to these places that you can kill them, and it's highly unlikely that anyone will even bother you. Rev Caves, the new wilderness bosses, and the rifts that spawn bosses this Deadman are some of the best money in the game, but you'll face a lot of competition. If you aren't a very good PK, I would personally leave this well alone. Clue scrolls are probably the fastest way to unlock sought after items such as Dragon Hide, Blessed Hide, God items, rune axes, magic short bows, as well as useful items like runes and alcohols. It means travelling the whole of Gielinor in a PvP zone, but those quick on their teleports will find this a very good and underrated moneymaker. I also don't want you to lose all of your money after you've made it, so here's some places to avoid if you can. PKs will be camped or at least hopping between worlds at almost every teleport spot and outside of most house portals and every good moneymaker such as raids and bosses. They will also be at the Barrows chest as it isn't a safe zone, and here between the Varrock West Bank and the GE as that isn't a safe zone either, even though the rest of Varrock and the GE is. When running to the GE, always go this way around. Finally, there's what I believe to be the best strategy in the whole of Deadman, but that's for me to know and you to find out in the next video.
Blow it up like a volcano.